something that you just talked about that I think is very consistent in terms of the conversations that I have with other artists, not even necessarily specifically Latino artists, just in general, is this kind of like DIY, do it yourself mentality, where it's like you have this energy within you, you have this passion to do something you love. And in this case, it's music for you guys. And so, like you said, we're just going to make it at home. We're going to do everything we can to do what we know is part of our journey. Talk a little bit about that, about working kind of within the confines of home, but having it be something so special to the music that you create.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really curious. We've known no other way. We've sort of started doing it that way, and every time we have gone into like an official studio, we just kind of go there and are sitting on our laptops, like we like editing the thing we got to do anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of the nature of the beast. The way it sort of sprung up. The whole project is basically from Raquel's sort of DIY experimentation, with with different samples and stuff and songwriting in inside this sort of very DIY rig that she had back when I met her. And so I think it has that character still a little bit, where it is a sort of a homemade endeavor, and I do see I think it's maybe a natural trend that is happening elsewhere as well because of the democratization of the technology, how much how accessible it is for people to make music.
Now, something that, if I'm not mistaken, that we had in common is we were living in New York City around the same time. But this kind of leads to the next question, which has to do with the album in and of itself, which is called Regresa. So talk about the significance of that title and what it means that right now I'm having a conversation with you guys when you're in Puerto Rico.
I mean, it's a pretty big thing, both for Luis, for our life, for the story of our lives in a way. I mean, this is something that we had dreamt about for a really long time. I mean, and it's sort of something, I guess, that happens with Puerto Ricans because of sort of our own history of migration between the States and the island, and also because of my family history too. My great grandmother went to New York in the 40s. My mother was born in the Bronx. She came back, then she moved to Florida. Now she's in Florida. So it's sort of, I think that there's the history of our people, we're always kind of coming and going. So Regresa kind of felt like, just sort of now this generation sort of living through that and living through the crisis that had happened after Maria and everything that's been going on. So it's really, really meaningful. I mean, coming back was the most surreal thing, and the fact that we have a daughter and that we were able to bring her here, and really for her to be around Spanish, to speak Spanish, to be around her grandparents, like it's a big deal. And in a way, it's like it felt natural to kind of make a record around that experience of coming back. And then because there's so many emotions tied to it, we're like, well, let's just pour all of these emotions and this moment into a record, a piece of art.
Luis, is your story somewhat similar in as Raquel's, where like family situations where it just felt almost natural to go back to the island where it all started?
Yeah, I think it's like Raquel said, Puerto Ricans are in a particular place in that in the sphere of Latin American immigrants in the States. It's a particular kind of case because we are sort of we have been our own little country, but it's also part of the U.S. and so there is a lot of cultural interchange between New York and the States and Puerto Rico, and but yeah, at some point, I think we had always thought about coming back, and I think a lot of Puerto Ricans do. I think a lot of Puerto Ricans eventually, and maybe as this is the experience of other immigrants as well, but we can only speak from our own experience. A lot of people plan to and never can, and I think at some point we had an opportunity, a window opened, and we saw our child, sort of beginning to grow up and and we said, yeah, okay, yeah, this makes sense. We got to go back.
Time. Let's take the jump.
You know, and I think, you know, it's meaningful to name the record that, because I mean, yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. A lot of people can't ever even do it. You know what I mean? To come back. But I think that maybe if you are in a position where you know, maybe you are Puerto Rican and you live outside and you do have all this, you know, you grow in experience and you grow in your own personal sort of wealth or influence or anything, that maybe there is something to coming back and sort of, you know, building home back up again or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially now after this year.